Hello everyone, I'm Lucy Fanger, CEO of On Technology Partners, and I'm proud to be sponsoring our new program, Women STaRs. In each episode, we will spotlight an amazing woman and the struggles and triumphs that she has faced. Then we will reflect and share her insights. Our goal is to engage, entertain, and explore the women STaRs in our world today. I hope you enjoy.
I want to thank you all for listening today. My name is Shanti Harkness, and I'm the Media Manager for On Technology Partners, a women-owned company addressing cybersecurity and risk. Join us as we share the reflections of women just like you that have survived struggles and embraced triumphs in their lives. Today, we'll be talking with Kathryn Kelley. Kathryn has served as Executive Director of the Ohio Manufacturing Institute since 2013, developing industry-vetted policies and programs to support manufacturing innovation and workforce needs. She collaborates with state and national partners on advanced manufacturing education pathways and engineering technologist manufacturing career programs. Currently, she's lead coordinator of Ohio State's Bachelor of Science in Engineering Technology program, launched at multiple regional campuses. OMI is also a partner on a NIST and Ohio MEP-funded project on digital transformation readiness assessment to help manufacturers with Industry 4.0 adoption. Previously, her focus was in program leadership and strategic communications at industry-oriented higher education, economic development, and statewide technology organizations, including the Ohio Technology Consortium and the City of Columbus Task Force on Technology and the Future of the City. Kathryn, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. So before we begin, Kathryn, why don't you tell us something that others may not know about yourself or something exciting about yourself?
Don't think a lot of people would know that I am a big Halloween fan. My youngest sisters, they're twins, and they were born October 31st. So it's a big deal in my family. We all celebrate, and I bring anyone who's involved with me into the mix, including my golden retriever. So even out during the pandemic last year, we were all dressed up, whether my boyfriend or my dog liked it or not.
Yeah, Halloween's a fun one. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So we know that triumphs don't come without their struggles, right? So talk to us a little bit about what some of your biggest struggles have been. This can be either professionally or personally. And tell us a little bit about how you were able to get through that struggle and what kind of an impact it had on your life or career.
I grew up in Appalachia, Virginia, where not much was expected of women beyond high school graduation, and knew that education was my ticket out of that economically disadvantaged area. And after I did go to school locally at a university nearby, and then as soon as I could, I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia to go to the University of Virginia to earn my master's degree. And then I had an opportunity to move to Ohio State with everything I owned in the back of a rental car to pursue my doctoral degree. So I started out in my early 20s pretty much alone, without a support network and not that many belongings. So I had nowhere to go but up. So at that point, I realized, and I don't think you ever realized what amount of fortitude you have until it's tested. And so, trying to build a life, and, Ohio has been so good to me. I was able to establish myself. I had the creativity. It didn't matter who your family was, and, or what side of the tracks you were on. It's really about what can you do and what's your fortitude. And I remember Lee Fisher presented at when he was the director of the Ohio Department of Development, and he had this. I heard him say this at least twice, so I think this was part of his stump speech when he gave presentations. He said, well, on the East Coast, it's what school you go to. On the West Coast, it's what car you drive and what kind of house you own. He said, but in the Midwest, it's where do you work? And I do think that Midwestern, just get down to it, roll up your sleeves, let's just get to work mentality was an environment in which I could thrive. And then, through the years, just being, sort of progressing through my career, I always, there are always setbacks. And so there were some pretty dark times where I just felt like I wasn't over my head, or, I was in a position where nothing I could do went right. And, I'd go home and crawl up in the fetal position, it didn't matter if I worked from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, it just wasn't going to be enough. And I think through all of that, it really was important for me to remember that, I had to remind myself of my personal sense of fortitude, that, I had gotten through other things, other setbacks early on in my life, that I could get through this. And then someone suggested this to me somewhere in my career, that I actually keep a kudos folder. I know it sounds really simple, but I had this kudos formula in my email. And anytime somebody's ever sent me a compliment or a kind note, it goes into that folder. And on those days when it's not going so well and I'm feeling down, I'll open up this folder and pick one of those to read. And given that, I always try to be really generous with others, to, anybody who goes above and beyond. And actually, Ohio State, where I work, there is a give a shout out area where you can, send a note thanking a colleague for something that they did that benefited you, or that you thought was just super helpful. Anyone who goes above and beyond, I think, needs to be recognized.
And I like how you mentioned at the beginning of your response about feeling like the only place you can go is up. And I think that oftentimes we get into that position, and, it can't, as much as I hate to say it, it can't get worse. So it has to get better. Right. And to just, really hold on to that optimism, like, even when something is challenging, that the reminder that it's not going to always stay the same, that eventually things are going to get better, I think is really helpful. And I love the idea of the kudos folder. I think that's an excellent tool to help us, when we're having those challenging days, or feeling down, or feeling like nothing can go right, and just to be able to go and, like you said, read through that and to get that positive affirmation that, yeah, you're doing good, you're making a difference, I think is absolutely wonderful.
Yes, and I think that also engenders a sense of gratitude that. Mm-hmm. I can look at those, and even if, I'm hit with some, an email that's telling me that the way that I put together this meeting was not, it wasn't right, or, whatever it is, I can always think, well, I've gotten to this point in my career, and, it's no matter how someone, doesn't agree with an approach that I've taken, or a path or choice I've made, that I can feel grateful that, I've gotten this far, and, that I've been able to make an impact overall.
It's wonderful. So, Kathryn, besides your kudos folder, did you have any other tips or tricks or any other methods that you've used to help you get through challenging times?
I really try to keep, as I said about building my network, I really try to make sure that I have my own board of directors and individuals who, have been there and have been, immensely supportive of what I'm doing. And, and I know these people have my back, and it probably is no surprise that a lot of those are women. And, but I do have some really strong support from some seasoned, professionals, and some of the leaders that I look up to, when I start thinking about, well, I can't do this, I've hit some roadblock, I'll think to those individuals I admire, not only my mentors, but beyond that, to leaders that I have seen who, have really just been made tremendous impact. And, a lot of those, I found myself realizing that a lot of those have servant leadership attitudes. They put their employees and the customers they serve before themselves. And, a lot of them, they're not the kind that are the big chest pounding, egocentric types of leaders. They're not the, Elon Musks of the world. I mean, they are the ones that are really doing the job and doing it quietly and supporting their staff. And those are the ones you don't notice right away. So, it's modeling my behavior, on what others who I have found as successful models, whether they're, someone who is in my inner circle as part of my board of directors or externally, that they are really, they're really making a difference.
That's wonderful. And you're absolutely correct that support network is so crucial and, lets you know that you're not the only one going through, whatever XYZ struggle, that all of these women have gone through, something similar, and to be able to reach out to them or to look to them for that support or guidance is invaluable. Absolutely.
Agreed.
So let's take a moment and focus on your biggest triumph. Can you share what that triumph was and what made it so great for you?
Well, that's happening right now, actually. I've had the privilege of being on the front lines, developing research that have led to policies and programs that positively impact manufacturers, especially small and mid-sized ones. And actually, I wanted to clarify a couple of the acronyms that you mentioned during the introduction. The NIST MEP program, that's the National Institute for Standards and Technology, and MEPs are a program that's in all 50 states and Puerto Rico that supports manufacturers in the United States. And so we work really closely with them because we do work with small and mid-sized firms. And when I came on board at Ohio State and became a part of the Ohio Manufacturing Institute, there was a program where these small companies, mid-sized companies that really didn't know where Ohio State's front door was. I mean, it's a huge university, that they could connect with a faculty member, a researcher, and do some testing services. So I got to, work really closely with some of those companies, and that helped us build these roadmaps for what their needs are. And of course, you can just open up the newspaper and see that one of the major issues is workforce, the lack of skilled workers. So I've been working on this bachelor's degree program in engineering technology at Ohio State, and it launched at 3 of the regional campuses in autumn 2020. And it's we believe it's the only degree program that is offered at the regional campuses and is not offered at the Columbus campus. So, and we've really had some uncharted territory to to walk through. And I've learned a lot about the university in this process. I thought I knew the university after being here for 25 years, but it has. We've broken the mold in a couple instances. So I just didn't realize that when we started the research, I thought it would be used to guide manufacturing workforce groups and educational institutions, but I never thought that we would get the green light to pursue a degree program at Ohio State. So we researched the labor data. We conducted numerous focus groups because everything that we do at OMI is industry led and industry vetted. And we always try to make sure that everything that we do has been touched by manufacturers. So we had these focus groups, and then I presented the white paper to the then dean of the College of Engineering at the time, David Williams, and he said, there's this faculty member, actually the dean of the Ohio State Mansfield campus had been hearing a lot of the same things from manufacturers in his region. And he said, why don't you two start collaborating? And then another faculty member I work with, Amy Ulstad, she retired from Anheuser-Busch. She worked there for 30 years, left as a chief engineer. She also worked at Procter & Gamble. She has that industry experience, and she was captured by the mission that we were on. and really wanted to support the program because before it was one of those situations, when you meet someone and you say, well, let's just throw some spaghetti on the wall and see what happens. We want to work together, but what do we work together to do? And we started together, and it's been about 4 years now. And and we now have this program, and we're working on ways to support both the manufacturers and the students' needs as we build this coursework, but also we're building a culture that supports this type of program. And so that has been the most rewarding experience of my career. It's, I'm going literally from soup to nuts, going all the way from the research to the implementation to the sustainability. We're actively recruiting students. We want to support underrepresented groups. Everything that I think I've worked on in my career, from the mayor's office at the city of Columbus with the task force on technology, where I got to meet some of these companies early on, and work that I did at the Supercomputer Center in Ornat with the Ohio Technology Consortium has led up to this moment.
And you mentioned building the culture around all of this, and I think that's something that can oftentimes seem very daunting to create a culture around something, or to change the culture around something is no easy task. So the fact that you've had such great progress and innovation with that entire process is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, and we've worked with groups that don't really normally communicate with each other, even internally. So it's one of those things. It's like, well, why would I need to talk to that group? And then so we've been making the case, and it's been wonderful. Everyone has been so responsive to, and everyone has contributed their ideas and their perspectives on what can be done to make the program better. When that starts happening, then it's taking hold, and people have a vested interest in this program. And I can only see good things, and I'm excited to see where we are in 5 years.
That's definitely very exciting and a tremendous triumph. So I wish you all the best of luck with that. It's very exciting. So Kathryn, as women, we juggle a multitude of different things. There's career, family, household responsibilities. Sometimes there's even illnesses or caregiving. So talk to us a little bit about how you maintain a work-life balance, and what do you think that employers could do to be more supportive of that balance?
I don't think I do a very good job of work-life balance. But in some ways, I think that that's a term. In some ways it can be a misnomer, because, if you love what you do and you're making an impact, and that is, buoying you and building, up what, the experience that you're having, then, it becomes a vocation. It doesn't necessarily become a career. It doesn't become a job. So there's some, not to say that I don't get burnt out from time to time. And, I have made some decisions in my life, that were very much focused on career. For example, I made the decision not to have children, and I kudos to every single woman out there who can do that. I just realized for myself, it wasn't something that I could focus on. And I think also if you're not predisposed to that, to having children, then it could be more problematic. So I kept focusing on my career, and I think, one of the things that I've been able to do is situate myself in a university setting where there's a value on autonomy. There's this sort of disparate concepts. It's autonomy and community, that these two ideas can work in harmony. And, I'm a one-person shop that relies on a network of faculty members, and industry partners. I work with a lot of people in industry and students, and, that's the only way it works for me. So it's a coalition of the willing, so to speak, so it works because everyone has a common goal. And so I'm able to surround myself with bright-minded colleagues and students. And that's been a humbling experience. And I learn from them every single day. I do think in some ways I have benefited from being in an educational setting. I think that has removed some of the restrictions that I might have in another field. So that's been something that's been important to me. I think that when we look at it more as a purpose in life, I've been starting to look at the concept of ikigai, which is a Japanese concept that means having a purpose in life and having a reason for getting up in the morning. And, it's that passion of loving what you do, and then profession of what you're good at, a mission, what the world needs, and then, what can you get paid to do? So, all of those together, that is a tough thing to do, and it's taken me a long time to get to that point. And I think me being in graduate school for as long as I was, thinking I was going to be a professor, gave me a little bit extra time to think about these things. But thinking about them and implementing them is a much different idea.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's one of those that I've had the choice to make certain decisions about my career that I don't think others are allowed to have. And, being able to have the luxury of picking the type of employer that I want for which I want to work, for whom I want to work, is something that I know others don't have and don't know, to give advice to people who are in completely different situation where they're are trapped in a position that they don't want to be in and trying to find a way out. It's something that I do think about. And, I think that will be my next step and we'll talk about this in a minute, but, what I want to do in my free time to give back to the community.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I love that you mentioned ikigai, because that's something that I've been hearing more about recently as well. And you're absolutely right. When you love what you do, it's not really work anymore, right? And that's something that I've found as well, that I'm one of those people where my brain's constantly on. And so, I can be off on my free time driving down the road, but if I see something that triggers an idea for something I'm working on at work, my brain is always on. There's not that distinct, separation between the two. And it's because I love what I do. And so I'm constantly thinking about things, even when I'm off on, my own personal time away from work.
Oh yes. I wish I wish I could be one of those people who could just turn it off. I really wish. Sometimes I think, can I just sit on this beach, and look out and not be thinking about work.
Right.
I wake up in the middle of the night, and a lot of people do that. I mean, you just, it's just because it's a stressful situation, but, I'm usually waking up and thinking, okay, I could do this and this, because you're processing things at night, and, I'll be running and I'll think of something and I'll have to, send a text message to myself.
I've done that.
Yeah. I really wish I could turn it off though sometimes. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Kathryn, how would you define success for yourself? And do you have any tips or habits that you use to help you to be successful or to feel successful?
I think the one thing that I really try to do to guide what I do is try to make an impact every day, however small. I mean, over the years, I've learned, like I said, I've learned to surround myself with people with whom I want to help be successful and have in turn raised the bar for me. So, I think part of being successful is sometimes you're going to have missteps, you're going to make mistakes. And I really love this phrase from, she was at the Bureau of Labor, and she just recently departed, shocked a number of colleagues that of her passing this summer. Her name is Emily Duraco, and she said, proceed until apprehended. And, and so I try to follow that mantra as much as possible, although it can get you in trouble, but it's good trouble. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the other version of that is ask for forgiveness, not permission. So,
Right.
and so a lot of times, if I'm dealing with the bureaucracy, it's a lot of times, when something is hindering your path, you have to figure out a way to get around it, get through it, find another route. But it's, I think the most important thing that I do is just keep moving. You just have to keep moving. And even if you have to take a sidestep or back up a little, that, I think part of the thing is, if I'm on a mission, one of my colleagues called me a quarterback one day. And, so I took that as a huge compliment, even with the football analogy, because, and then I've had another boss who called me scout, because I'm always finding ways to connect people, finding the routes to take. And so I think that, plus being able, I think the thing that I get rewarded, I feel the most rewarded, is when I am connecting people who really need to be connected. That bridge building part of the position is my favorite part. People who really could benefit, and actually their efforts can be magnified by connecting to another group or another person. And that is, I think, incredible when that magic happens. So, and I think doing that for other people, that brings it back to me on some level, whatever level, it doesn't matter. Even if it's just, good karma. That's important. I do think another thing, and you've had a couple of women leaders on your show that have mentioned this, is to volunteer, and I really appreciate having an outlet other than work, in which I'm involved and I'm sharing my talents. And that is where sometimes I can turn things off. Been a volunteer at Battelle Darby Creek Metro Parks for over 25 years. And that is something that has been just of tremendous personal value. I mean, even though I'm there holding the buckets and the seines, and where they have bison there, so I've done bison programs, butterfly programs, all the bees, bats, everything from that to being in the stream to canoeing. I get so much more out of it than I think even the people who are there. But I mean, we have all ages and all types of people going on these programs. And, and I was so thrilled to be a part of that, and led to me serving on the board of, and then eventually becoming the president of the Friends of the Metro Parks. And so, I've cycled off of that. It's been a couple of years. And so now I'm currently trying to find my next volunteer opportunity. And we have, at Ohio State, we had this program for STEP students, the sophomore students, called STEP. And, there's the sophomore slump. And so this is a program that is put in place to help students find their purpose in life. And so I'm there as a faculty mentor, and they have a cohort, and my theme is servant leadership. So we are bringing in individuals who are servant leaders, but also social ventures. So they are doing well by doing good. And we have the president of that program coming for Columbus coming in next week. And she used to be the president of Dress for Success. And so, even though the students are getting this experience, I'm also getting to learn from it. And I'm hoping that it will open up a door to my next venture, when it comes to volunteering. So I really think that, you have to have those meaningful experiences outside of your career.
I support that 100%. And that's actually an area where I derive the most joy, is when I'm volunteering and giving back and serving others. And you sort of mentioned this. I don't think you came right out and said it, but that when you volunteer just for the sake of volunteering, without getting, without having the expectation of getting anything in return, you get so much more than you're actually giving. You really, really do. And I can't remember who the researcher was, but I remember being told at some point that the love we give to others, there's a chemical reaction in the brain that when we're giving to others selflessly, that there's a chemical reaction that actually causes us to feel that same love that we're giving to others. So it makes you feel good. It makes you feel loved and valued and gives you this great feeling because you're serving others selflessly. And I think it's very easy, especially in our modern day, to get really caught up in egotism and material possessions and comparing yourself to others, and just this vicious cycle that can lead down a terrible rabbit hole. But that when you step outside of that and you're actually helping somebody just for the sake of helping them, to help uplift somebody else, it's this incredible shift that occurs in your being that just words fall far short of being able to adequately describe. It really is something that people need to experience for themselves. So I love that you mentioned the volunteering and how much that you get back from that in one way or another.
Yes, and I think that's a thread with your conversations, at least a few that I listen to, is that a lot of women who have had success in their careers, that they have that sense of volunteership.
So Kathryn, take a moment now and reflect on something that you wish you would have known sooner in life and share that with us.
I wish that I had known how to say no more. When you're starting out, you feel like you have to say yes to everything. And I ended up saying yes to things that may not have necessarily pushed my career forward, but I was trying to be a good team player. So that is such a tough balance to achieve, is, where do you want to show others that you are part of that team, but then how do you take a stand for yourself when things cross the line, or you're being put in, a place that you think is devaluing your participation or presence on the team. So, it could be even something as simple as, well, I'm the person who's always taking the notes. And why am I the person always taking the notes? Is it because I'm the only female in the room? So maybe I should suggest in them that, someone else should take the notes in the next meeting. So they're sort of fine tuning how you position yourself. And I think after a while, I went a little bit too far on the other end of the spectrum. And, I felt I had to, in order to rise to the top, I had to, throw my weight around, I don't think I was very good at that. It was very inauthentic of me to take that stance. And really what happened, I saw all these leaders in the community when I was working on the task force on technology. And these were individuals at the top of their game. It was Kathryn Sullivan. She was an astronaut, and here she was the head of COSI, the Science Museum, and there's the head of Battelle, and there's the head of the Chamber, and all these other organizations. And I noticed that they weren't doing that. They weren't being aggressive. They were not they weren't trying to jostle their position or put anybody else down, that they were comfortable in their own skin. And not to say that all leaders are like that, but, I really think that, finding your way, it's really, and I know that others have said this in your conversations, is you really need to be authentic. You have to find your own authenticity. I think that could have carried me a lot farther. It could have caused a lot less heartache. I had discovered that sooner.
I think, especially like you mentioned, the ability to say no earlier on in your career, I think is something that a lot of us can relate to. That, we we don't want confrontation or disruption. We want to please everybody and make sure that everything runs smoothly. We don't want to rock the boat, and so we just continue to give and give and give, even if it's not beneficial or helpful to us. Yeah. And so being able to learn that sooner in life, I can definitely see the value, the value in that. Absolutely.
I read an article, and I actually shared this with the students. And it's basically, it's if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Ooh.
Because there's only so much time in the day. And so if you're saying yes to all of those TikTok videos, you're saying no to something else.
Oh, I like that. That's a great way to look at it.
Yes. I'll share that with you.
I like that one.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to remember that. I'm gonna write this down. Because that is a good one.
And Warren Buffett, he says the difference between successful people and extremely successful people is that extremely successful people know how to say no.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson to learn too. I know that that's taken me far longer than I care to admit.
Oh,
but it's a very, very important lesson to learn. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, Kathryn, what advice would you give to young women that are just beginning their careers, or perhaps women that are thinking about changing careers?
Some of it's been a thread in the answers I've given so far is, keeping truly positive, supportive people in your life, both professionally and personally, that idea of a personal board of directors or mentors to provide advice, help you pick yourself up when you fall down, celebrate the successes. It's one of those things that, to borrow a well-worn phrase, it takes a village. But I do think that everyone could use. It's wonderful if you can do this on your own, but I don't know very many people or any who have actually been able to accomplish things on their own. It's you don't do things in a vacuum. So and I think it took a while to realize that, that there are some people who really don't have your best, interests at heart. And how do you just determine who those people are? And, and I think other people have had to learn those lessons. I'm certainly not alone. So, and there's so many people who want to help. There's so many people who want to impart their knowledge, and they're just waiting to be asked. I mean, we had a student after the first year of this engineering technology program, and there was a tour of Whirlpool in Marion, and we found out later in the summer, oh, such and such, he's got an internship at Whirlpool. And we said, well, what happened? How did he get the internship? And the associate dean said, he asked. So I think sometimes that's the other thing you have to learn early on is ask for help, ask for that, that position or that role or that job. If you want it, you have to ask for it and keep asking. And, it's that, you have to open up those doors. And then another thing is, that other well-worn adage that where one door closes, another one opens. And I don't know how many times that's happened in my career, and it's turned out to be a much better experience. I took a couple years and went into a field that I wasn't familiar with, and it really did not go well. Not that I didn't do well, but I gave it my all. But I realized after a year that this was not an area I needed to pursue, and so I ended up taking a salary cut to get into the position that I'm in now. Because I wanted it was much more meaningful and somewhere where I could see myself making an impact. So I think that's really the main thing, is to keep positive, supportive people around you. Make sure you can figure out the detractors early on, and then, make sure that you find those open doors.
Or open the door if you don't see one that's open. I like how you mentioned, that person just asking, about the internship. And that's actually something that I did when I was preparing to graduate college. I was interested in working at our local health department. So my background is originally in public health. And we had no knowledge that the health department even took interns. But I just, I was like, you know what, it just makes sense. Why not? My field is in public health. Why not work at the local public health agency? And so I called and I asked and found out that, they do accept interns. And, so I was the first person in my program. Nobody else had ever bothered to even ask the health department. And it was, it turned out to be, a great internship. And then it turned into a job offer, shortly afterwards. And, I worked there for almost 7 years. And it was great. I had a huge impact on my community and the different programs, that were offered in relation to public health and chronic disease prevention, that I wouldn't have had that experience or those opportunities had I not asked. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yes. And you're right. Sometimes you do have to open up the door yourself.
Or at least crack a window.
I mean, sometimes you can get through with the window, as long as it's not.
Yeah. So, Kathryn, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
You can simply go to the Ohio Manufacturing website. It's omi.osu.edu. My email and phone number are listed on the homepage. So that's right where it is. Anyone who wants to contact me.
Perfect. Kathryn, thank you so much. It has been an absolute joy to speak with you. Thank you again so much for taking the time for this interview.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
On Technology Partners wants to thank you for joining us on this episode of Women STaRs. If you'd like to appear in a future podcast episode, or if you'd like to nominate a woman to be interviewed for Women STaRs, please email stars@ontechpartners.com. My name is Shanti Harkness. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on today's journey. Remember, you are all women stars. If you wish to learn more about our Women STaRs program or want to be a guest on our show, contact us at stars@ontechpartners.com. And thank you to On Technology Partners for helping me make this program a reality. Remember, we at On Technology Partners want to help you protect your team from hackers. To learn more about our cybersecurity services, go to ontechnologypartners.com.